Florida State football is back at Walter Sports Bar for the season. The Seminoles kick off Week 0 this Saturday at noon against Georgia Tech. In honor of the game being played in Dublin, Jameson is treating everyone who registers to their first green tea shot on the house.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Quantrill to the belt. He fires. Swing a line drive up the middle. It's falling, it's dunking, and it's going to drop in for a base hit, and it's going to score 2. Wood flares a splitter into shallow center for a 2-run single. Here's the 0-2. Swing a ground ball right side. Garcia has it. Flips to Abrams for 1, on to first for 2. And there's the double play that Corbin needed as he's able to get out of a bases-loaded jam with a pitcher's best friend. 4-6-3.
The pitch, swing, and a long drive to left center field. This one way back's got a chance. Going, gone, goodbye. Bang! Zoom goes Juan Yepez with his 4th home run in the big leagues this year. A 3-run shot. And that breaks this game wide open. It's now the Nationals 8 and the Rockies 1.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Friday, August 23rd, 2024, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who's at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. The drought is over. What drought, you ask? The drought of the Nationals having not notched a series win in a weekday series, a series that took place between a Monday and a Thursday. The Nats on Thursday afternoon ripped the Colorado Rockies 8-3 at Nationals Park to win the series 2-1. This marks the Nats' first series win in a weekday series since winning 2 out of 3 games at the Detroit Tigers from June 11th through the 13th. Yes, it had been more than 2 months since the Nats had notched a series win in a weekday series, but that drought, that was over. The Nats now 58-70. The Rockies now 47-81, second worst record in the National League. The Nats do still have the 3rd worst record in the National League, but the Nats now have an 11-game lead on the Rockies. If you are listening to this podcast via Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can rate the podcast with a star rating. 5-star ratings are greatly appreciated. They help us out a lot. Thank you for doing them. We on this podcast do not often talk about pitcher wins, but we on Thursday did have a milestone win for Patrick Corbin, his 100th career Major League regular season win. He pitched well. The Nats offense was very good. And Mark, a series that did not start off in a good way, ended with back-to-back wins.
Okay, so I didn't know it had been that long since they had won a weekday series, and you said mid-June in Detroit, so what's the common thread between that one and this one? That's the last series Joey Gallo played before he got hurt, and he just came back off the IL. So maybe Joey Gallo has been the missing link all along, at least when it comes to weekday series. Who knew? Look, after watching for the last 3 days, I think I can say with some authority here, the Colorado Rockies are not a good baseball team in any way. But good on the Nationals for taking advantage of that, at least in 2 out of the 3 games. And good for Patrick Corbin. I was thinking to myself, boy, if there's anything you hate talking about more than Patrick Corbin, it's pitcher wins. But sorry, my friend, this is a pitcher win episode for better or worse. So props to Patrick Corbin. It took him a long time to get here. Started the season with 97 wins. Here we are on August 22nd, and he finally got his 3rd of the season, giving him an even 100 for his career. But you know what? It meant something to him. It meant something to the other guys on that team. They celebrated it. more power to him. Congrats to Patrick Corbin.
I'll be honest, I never look at pitcher records. So, I have no idea who on the Nats is doing well in terms of his record. I did look at Corbin's record after this game because he got to 100. 3-12 is what we're looking at for this season. So, in that case, the win-loss record is, in fact, representative of the pitcher. But look, good for Patrick Corbin for getting to that milestone. He did pitch well. We'll get to him. But the Nats offense in this game did well. And I'd like to focus on that for a bit here. 8 runs, 11 hits, which were a home run, 2 doubles, and 8 singles, 4 walks, 5 for 12 with runners in scoring position, 4 for 4 on stolen bases. The Nats in this game, 2 runs, bottom of the 3rd, 3 runs, bottom of the 6th, 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th, and you had everyone contributing. Every Nats starting player in this game in terms of position players had at least 1 hit. You had the building blocks coming through. James Wood, he is the Nats starting left fielder and number 3 batter, 1 for 3 with a 2-run single, a walk, and a hit by pitch. And he had a stolen base, and the 2-run single, you brought this up with Davey Martinez during his post-game presser. Wood in the Nats 2-run third, 2-out, 2-run single to center field for a 2-0 Nats lead despite having been down in the count at 1.12. Wood also had a stolen base in that inning, but a nice in-plate appearance adjustment by James Wood in that plate appearance.
So he saw 6 consecutive splitters. I don't know if I could ever remember anything like that before, and his first couple swings were not pretty. And they were mostly pitches down and even out of the zone. And had he just stood there and taken them, he probably would have drawn the walk. But he kept hanging in there, and he took a few off the plate and finally got one that was just enough in the strike zone. It was like right at the knees, but it would have been a strike. And he got just enough bat on it to poke it into center field. Now, the funny thing, we've talked so much about his exit velocity and how he hits the ball harder than anyone. His exit velocity on that 2-run single was 73.6 miles an hour. I think it's his second softest base hit in the big leagues now so far. So there are other ways to do it. It doesn't always have to be loud contact. In this case, by recognizing the pitch after seeing it so many times in a row and just getting enough bat on it, he found the hole in shallow center field. So good for him for that. That was a very un-James Wood-like hit, but sometimes you need those. And it's important for him, as we keep saying, he wants to sit on fastballs. He's not getting a lot of them. And so if they're not going to give them to you, you better be able to adjust. And he did that there and did just enough to get the big hit.
Well, he's had so many outs for which the exit velocity has been above 100 miles per hour. He was he was owed a hit that was less than, say, 80 miles per hour in terms of the exit velocity. Yeah, it was funny. Bob Carpenter on Masson, upon Wood making contact for that single, didn't think it was going to drop for a hit. Like, that did not look like a hit, but it ended up being a hit, and good on Wood for that. The walk, bottom of the first, a 2-out, 8-pitch walk. Ante and the Nats, 3-run 6, drew a hit by pitch. So your James Wood OPS, since he was promoted to the majors on July 1st, now at 837. We know that C.J. Abrams has not had a great month of August, but he in this game did get on base a few times. He is an Nats starting shortstop and number 2 batter, 1 for 4 with a double and a walk. Did strike out twice. Man, he is striking out way too much, but good on him to get the double. 3-run 6, a leadoff double into right field, and Abrams in the bottom of the 7th drew a 1-out walk. Keibert Ruiz continues to produce. You know, we're no longer like early in the month of August. We now are rather deep into the month of August. And Ruiz continues to come through. He in this game is the Nats starting catcher and cleanup batter, 1 for 4 with an RBI double, 3-run 6, a first pitch RBI double into left field for a 3-1 Nats lead. His terrific August now sees him with an OPS for this month of 855. This might be the single biggest positive for the Nats this month that Keibert Ruiz has gotten going.
Well, Luis Garcia has been a huge plus, but he had already had a good season to date, and he's just kind of adding to it. Yeah, offensively, I would say Keibert Ruiz is probably the number one guy the rest of the way that you want to see get something going, and he has now for not just a week or two, but for a sustained stretch. And boy, has he needed it. The season totals still don't look great, of course, but if you look back over a pretty good stretch since the end of June, he has now played in his last 40 games, and he's got a batting average around 280 and slugging almost to 500. So he's getting it there. It's taken a while for it. It's probably too late for the season totals to stand out and look good, but I think they'll be able to look back at the end of this and say, okay, there was finally that turning of the corner for him, and maybe enough to help convince them that he can still be the right guy for this job moving forward, and they may not panic as much as we've talked about them doing. That's a long way to go still, so he's still got to prove it. but I've liked what I've seen from him a lot more over the last really like 2 months almost, as opposed to what he did for the first 3 months of the season.
And he has hit for power. We've seen him hit homers. We've seen him come through with doubles. Like, it's not just a bunch of cheapy singles. Like, he's actually making good contact, and he's being pretty consistent, which is another good part of all of this. Hey, Al Galdi here to tell you about the latest great offer from Window Nation. For listeners of the Nats Chat podcast, get 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years, plus get an additional $250 credit. If you have been thinking about getting new windows, now is the time. Take advantage of this offer from Window Nation. Call 866-90NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Window Nation windows are outstanding. 96% customer satisfaction rating. 96% of Window Nation windows installed require no follow-up service, and Window Nation has received more than 33,000 5-star reviews on Google. Take advantage of this offer. 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy. Plus, pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years and get an additional $250 credit. 866-90NATION or windownation.com. Tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. 866-90NATION or windownation.com and tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent you.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Here's the kick and the pitch. Swinging a ground ball, base hit into right field. Wood will jog in and score. Ruiz will move to third, and the Nationals lead 4-1. RBI single Garcia. Nationals have 4 men on in a row in this inning. Garcia with his 63rd run driven in. What a season he's having.
Luis Garcia Jr., another productive game for him. Man, has he been consistent these last few weeks, really months at this point. Garcia on Thursday afternoon as an starting second baseman and number 5 batter, 2 for 4 with an RBI single and another single. And he had a stolen base. Garcia in the Nats 3-run 6 RBI single through the right side of the infield for a 4-1 Nats lead. And he had a stolen base. And Garcia in the Nats 3-run 8th leadoff first pitch single through the right side of the infield. So Luis Garcia Jr. remains number 1 among all qualified Nats players in OPS. That now is at 796. He has the potential to finish this season with 20 homers and an 800 OPS. He still needs 5 to get to 20, so we'll see if he does that. And obviously, getting up to an 800 OPS and maintaining that won't be easy, but that he can do that is shocking given where we were.
And I'll add 2 more categories to that. He could, a little ways to go here, but he could finish the season with 20 homers, 20 steals, the OPS you mentioned, and a 300 batting average. He's up to 296 now. And I know batting average, kind of like pitcher wins, are not the most important stat, but for Luis Garcia to even be threatening 300, that is a big deal. And he has done that with just this huge surge here across August. So you're talking about a potential 2020 season with a high batting average, hitting for power, running the bases well, and as we've said, has been playing much improved defense. I don't think we can overstate how big of a deal this has been this season for Luis Garcia, from a guy who went from talking about maybe he wouldn't even hold the second base job for long coming out of spring training to now really solidifying himself as one of the team's best hitters.
So you guys who cover the team at the end of the season vote on Nats Players of the Year, correct?
Yep.
Who is the Nats MVP of the season?
I would say that's still to be determined, Al. I would say for a better part of 4 months, we would have said, no doubt it's C.J. Abrams. Don't even have to think too hard about that. But the way he has cooled off since the All-Star break, the way that Luis Garcia has turned it up a lot, and as I just outlined, in all phases of his game, it's going to make a very compelling case. And, we haven't, I don't think, ever been in a situation where we had to consider somebody who was only on the team for half a season. But if James Wood does the rest of the way what he's done the first month and a half here, he could have a case for it. It would be a little odd to do that for a guy who will have only played half of the season in the big leagues, but he's been that good that it at least warrants some consideration. But I would say right now, if I had to vote today, it's probably Luis Garcia 1, C.J. Abrams 2, and James Wood trying to catch up to them. But with 5 weeks to go, there's still a lot of possibilities for any one of those three, I would say.
Yeah, and that was my point, that Garcia may well have played himself into being the Nats MVP for this season, which is a real credit to what he's done. I also have thought about this. So, look, when it comes to winning National League Rookie of the Year, that's a steep mountain for James Wood to climb, given how late into the season he was called up to the majors. You have, Paul Skeens, you have Jackson Merrill. Do you think, though, that Wood might get some votes at the end of this season if he keeps this up?
He could get some top 3 votes, yeah. If it was down to 1 through 5, I think he'd have an even better chance. I believe it's only 3 for Rookie of the Year, so that might be tougher. But it does, kind of suggest that had he been here longer, he really could have had a run at it. And there have been rookies in the past who have won that despite playing only half a season. I think Ryan Howard might be the one that comes to mind that was just incredibly good but wasn't up for the whole season. It just kind of depends who else plays that year, what the competition is. It's been a really good rookie class this year. So, it's going to be hard for him to top what Skeens or Jackson Merrill has done. But yeah, look, if you get to the end and James Wood hits 290, driving the ball as much as he has, he's got, again, your favorite stat, he's got 30 RBI in 45 games. If he tops the 50 mark or even 60 mark in RBI, despite playing half a season, hits for power, there's a case for him to at least get some consideration for votes. I think it's too much to ask for Rookie of the Year, but which would be fine with the Nats because they would lose a year of eligibility of him if that happened.
Well, he is at 190 plate appearances. So you think about, okay, we have a month and change left in the regular season. So he should get well into 300 plate appearances. So there will be a decent sample of Wood. It's not going to be, an overwhelming sample, 500, 600 plate appearances. But yeah, if he does really well, he will deserve, I think, votes for National League Rookie of the Year. Not first place votes, but like you said, top 3 votes.
Yeah, that's going to be half a season that he will have played in the big leagues, and that's more than enough to look at what he's done. And it'll be a great what if, I think, for everyone. What if they had called him up earlier, if he hadn't hurt the hamstring and that, kept him down in AAA for another month or so? If he had been called up June 1st instead of July 1st, maybe there would have been a case for that, because as great as Skeens has been, there is always that question of, do you reward an everyday player over a starting pitcher, who's only going every 5 days? So that would be a fun argument to have if it came to that.
And of course, what you also can say is, had Wood been called up sooner, would he be doing as well as he is doing right now? Did the Nats, in waiting to call him up, set him up to do as well as he's doing right now? And of course, we'll never know the answer to that. The Nats' home run on Thursday afternoon came from Juan Yepez. So he is the Nats starting DH and number 7 batter, went 1 for 4 with a 3-run homer. Yepez in the Nats' 3-run 8th, a 3-run homer to left center field on a 1-2 pitch for an 8-1 Nats lead. That homer going a projected 404 feet per StatCast. It's been a while since we have talked about Juan Yepez. Remember, he got called up. He got called up on July 5th, got off to a really hot start. He had since cooled off quite a bit, so good to see him homer on Thursday.
So he got a few days off, finally. He was playing basically every day since he was called up. And this is where the Joey Gallo addition can actually make maybe some difference here. Not just what Gallo might do himself. And I thought he had another good game. He's put together some quality at-bats and played good defense. But even beyond that, it gave Yepez the chance to sit for a couple of days or DH for a couple of days. And maybe, a guy who was not ever expected to be an everyday player who suddenly gets thrown into that spot, maybe it was good for him to clear his mind a little bit, rest the body a little bit. And he put a very good swing on that one to extend the lead. And we'll see how he does the rest of the way. He's in an interesting position because He's young. He's 26. He's got plenty of club control left. I don't think anybody's looking at him as the starting first baseman next year. But he's a guy who could have a role on a good team as a part-time player, as a right-handed first base / DH, and has even played some other positions as well. So I think if I'm Juan Yepez, like, I'm still looking at the rest of the season as an opportunity to state my case for being included on this team moving forward, even if it's not as an everyday player for them.
Jose Tena, he is the Nats starting third baseman and number 6 batter, 2 for 4 with an RBI single and another single, and he had a stolen base. Jacob Young as the Nats starting center fielder and number 9 batter, 1 for 4 with a single. By the way, speaking of guys who play every day, it is something. Jacob Young does not take days off. I mean, he is a staple at this point as the Nats starting center fielder and more often than not, number 9 batter. But for a guy who didn't even break camp with the Nats at the major league level, that he has become like cemented as the team's everyday center fielder, pretty remarkable.
And a guy whose body takes a pounding out in the outfield a lot and on the bases as well. Credit to him. That has not been easy for him to do, although at the moment they don't have a whole lot of alternatives to even give him a day off if they wanted to. And while we're on that subject of center fielders, have you noticed how Victor Robles has cooled off considerably the last few weeks? It's not exactly coinciding with when he signed that extension with Seattle, but it was already starting to happen before that. But all the talk about Victor Robles, the Mariners saved him and turned him into the player he was always supposed to be here. Not so fast, my friends. Keep an eye on that. He has cooled off dramatically since then.
Yeah, the numbers have dipped down. So his initial run with the Mariners when he was hot, he had a batting average on balls in play that was above 400. And so it was an interesting statistical case study because on the one hand, the batted ball data was a lot better than it was with the Nats. And so you said, okay, he's making better contact. But on the other hand, like every ball he was putting in play, it felt like was resulting in a hit. And so you said, well, that's not going to last. And sure enough, it has not lasted. And his overall numbers with Seattle have come down. Now that extension, it's like a 2-year, less than $10 million extension. So I suppose if you're Seattle, you're not that worried about like what happens with that money. But no doubt, I mean, he was hitting like an MVP candidate a few weeks ago. That has not been the case here lately.
Tim Shover is here to tell you about Game Time. Shows this September at the Anthem in DC include Kings of Leon, Ringo Starr, and Weezer. If you're interested in finding tickets to any of these shows, make sure to check out the Game Time app. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you the complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code NATSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code NATSCHAT for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Here's the pitch. Swing and a miss, and a new season-high 8th strikeout. As Corbin gets Rogers on the cutter, he's fanned 4 in a row going back to the 5th inning.
Regardless of how long it took, 100 wins is a lot of wins. So congratulations to him and his family. What I can say about Patrick is the guy, he competes. He goes out there every 5 days, takes the ball.
So Patrick Corbin as the Nats starting pitcher for this 8-3 win over the Rockies on Thursday afternoon. A good outing. Actually one of his better outings this season. 1 run in 6 innings, 8 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He gave up just 4 hits, which were a home run and 3 singles. He threw a lot of strikes, 95 pitches, 64 strikes versus just 31 balls. And as we noted, he notched his 100th career Major League regular season win. Corbin still has the worst ERA among all qualified pitchers in the majors at 5.73, but he, with this outing, reduced that ERA from 5.92 to 5.73. And it does say something about how wretched the Rockies are that they face a guy like this in Corbin who's having this kind of season, and they get dominated by Corbin. I mean, Corbin really did a good job in this game, so props to him. He gets the milestone win. And Davey Martinez, it was interesting to me during that post-game presser, complimentary of Corbin as an influence on the younger starting pitchers. It was good to hear that. I mean, everyone understands what has happened with Corbin. It was almost funny. Davey, you could tell he was like searching for good things to say about Corbin. And at one point was like, we don't win the 2019 World Series without Corbin.
Without him, we don't win a World Series. That's what I can say about Patrick.
And it's like, yeah, that's the problem. You got to go back to 2019 to say good things about this guy as a pitcher. But as a locker room guy, every indication has been that he has done well. He's been a good teammate, and he pitched well in this game on Thursday.
Of course, he has taken the ball every fifth day, no matter what. I'm sure there were points the last couple of years that he thought to himself, I could just say my shoulder is sore, give me a start off. I'll take a little IL stint or something like that. And it has never come up. So credit to him for that. He has really taken upon himself to mentor the young pitchers, and they've got a lot of them on that staff. Now you can say, do you really want Mackenzie Gore and DJ Hers and Mitchell Parker learning from Patrick Corbin? Well, you don't want them learning, his repertoire or his approach to pitching, but there are a lot of other behind the scenes stuff about how to be a big leaguer, how to take care of your body, which I think Corbin has proven has been able to do by making all these starts, that stuff is absolutely valuable. He's been the consummate teammate through it all. He's made no excuses for how any of this has gone. Yeah, there are times that you wish he would come out and acknowledge that he has been really bad, that he's been the worst pitcher in baseball here for several years, but I understand why he's not going to say that, because he's got to, in his own mind as a competitor, try to convince himself that he can bounce back from this. But this was a bad lineup that he's facing. But I thought he did a lot of good things in this one. 8 strikeouts, season high for him. Quick outs, threw strikes, got ground balls, mixed up his pitches. There was cutter a lot with some success, mixed in different variations and speeds on his slider. So we have seen him at times put things like this together and show that there is still something there in him. He doesn't have to be the worst pitcher in baseball. He's not going to be a good one, but he doesn't have to be the worst one. And as we've noted, because of the injuries to others and the situation with, say, Jackson Rutledge and others in the minor leagues, there's nobody on his heels at the moment. So the job continues to be his, and he'll continue to take the ball. And perhaps when the season's over, he'll have reached 102 or 103 wins, maybe.
I'm interested to see after this season, is that the end of his major league career, or does someone sign him? Does he get a contract with somebody? Is it maybe, on a tryout basis almost, as we're not going to guarantee you anything in terms of making the club, but, we'll give you a shot? Like, does he have to wait until February or even March to get, a minor league contract with an invite to major league spring training? Does someone maybe sign him as a reliever? I mean, it's hard to see someone signing him to be a part of the rotation, but I guess because of the durability, there is that possibility. But I actually am kind of intrigued by this. What happens with him as a free agent this coming offseason?
So he just turned 35, so that's not a spring chicken. That's an age that even if you're pitching well, there could be some concerns about how much more time you have. The thing in his corner, as you said, is the durability. You're talking about a guy who's made 31, 32 starts. He's at 26 now and should top 30 again. The only year that he hasn't hit 30 in quite a while was the COVID year, when he still made every start. He made 11. So, I mean, he literally has not missed a start for any kind of significant reason since like 2016 with Arizona. So that can be valued. Now, I think the question is, who would value it? Would it appeal to him? Would he say, do I really want to go through this? Do I want to take a minor league deal and try to earn my way onto a team or not? Would I even take a shot as maybe a long man somewhere? I think it just boils down to where his motivations are right now. He's not somebody who lets you into his head a whole lot. So we don't really know how draining this has been on him. He's said all the right things. He's handled it all the right way, but he might get to the end of this and say, you know what? I won a World Series. I made a ton of money. I have not been a good pitcher, and it's been hard to take the mound every fifth day, knowing how likely the chances are that I'm going to get beat up and take another loss. I got a family at home. I don't need to go through that anymore. I don't need to prove anything to anybody anymore. But maybe there is some competitive fire still in him, and in the right situation, if presented with it, he would take it. I would be very surprised if that opportunity came here. As much as they appreciate what he did for them, as highly as they've spoken of him, I think they understand that it's time to turn the page there and not try to hang on to that one any longer than necessary.
Yeah, I think you'd have Nats fans lined up outside for miles of Nationals Park in protest if that happened. The Nats bullpen in this game on Thursday afternoon. So you had 3 Nats relievers pitching. They combined to give up 2 runs in 3 innings. The first 2 Nats relievers in the game did well, actually really well. Robert Garcia tossed 1 1/3 perfect innings with 3 swinging strikeouts. Jacob Barnes in the top of the 8th faced 2 batters and got 2 outs, including generating a called strikeout. So Garcia and Barnes combined for 2 perfect innings with 4 strikeouts. Then we had Yohan Adon. He in the top of the ninth allowed 2 runs. He issued a 2-out walk, then gave up a 2-out, 2-run homer, and then gave up a 2-out double. Because there were 2 outs, you felt pretty safe in saying, okay, we're not going to see the thing where the Nats are up comfortably, but because the final reliever, or the guy who was supposed to be the final reliever used by the team in the game struggles, Davey Martinez actually has to go to another reliever to finish the darn game. So Adon did close out the game, but he did not do well in that inning. I got to say this about Robert Garcia, and this has been said of so many relievers over the years. When he's good, he's not just good, like he is electric. He was so good in this outing. If he could just harness that and get rid of the bad, the guy could be an elite back end of the bullpen type person. But of course, he has those struggles. But his stuff, I would say, is as good as any other reliever's stuff now that Hunter Harvey has been traded in terms of relievers on the Nats.
Yeah, faced 4 batters, struck out 3 of them. So, I mean, yeah, you'll take that. And again, he has the ability to get righties out as well. This does not have to be somebody who is a lefty matchup guy to have a good career, but he does have to find some level of consistency. And, again, as we talk about so many others, on the days when you don't really have it, can you dig deep? Do you have something else you can turn to get out of a jam and not let things blow up on you? But he has been worth riding the highs and the lows, I think. He's still very young in terms of Major League service time. He absolutely is somebody they should stick with, as is Jose Ferrer, who has really good stuff, is much more raw than Garcia. We need to see a lot more from him to know if he has the ability to do it. But I think we've seen enough from Garcia to say, this is a guy worth hanging on to and hoping that over time he can develop some consistency because, as you said, when he's good, he is really good.
Yeah, and if the Nats are going to contend next season, you're going to need improvement from within. And Garcia is one of those guys from whom, if you get the improvement from within, you could see some really good stuff. So next up for the Nats is a 3-game series at the Atlanta Braves. Game 1 Friday night at 7:20. Mackenzie Gore will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 2 Saturday night at 7:20. Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 12:05. In another Roku game, DJ Hurst will be the Nats starting pitcher. This is an odd portion of the Nats schedule. They just faced a terrible team in the Rockies, but that came after the Nats facing a really good team in the Phillies, and that 4-game series at the Phillies came after a 2-game series at another good team in the Orioles, although the Orioles aren't doing so well right now. But you look at the schedule, Orioles, Phillies, Rockies, but now 3 games at the Braves, followed by 3 games at home against the New York Yankees. So save for the Rockies series, this does represent a stiffening of the schedule.
And the Braves have dealt with all kinds of injuries and have been teetering on the brink here and wondering if they're even going to be able to hold on and make the playoffs, which would be pretty shocking if they did not make the playoffs, at least given what we know about them and their consistency over the years. So kind of like that Phillies series where that team was struggling going into it. And you said, well, maybe the Nats are catching them at the right time. Said, well, hang on a second. If I'm the Phillies, I'm looking at this as here's a chance to get healthy and get hot again. And they certainly did. If I'm the Braves, I'm feeling the same way about the Nationals coming in this weekend. So it is up to the Nats to continue to play well against them. They've done well against Atlanta this year, something they've not done in quite a while. Is that improvement on their side? Is it regression on the Braves side? I don't know. But here's a chance to make a little statement and say, okay, we're still making progress. Yeah, we haven't caught anywhere up close to the Phillies where we can compete with them. But the team that has actually dominated the division for quite a while, we're starting to prove we can hang with them. I'll be interested to see how that looks this weekend.
You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the podcast, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on our website, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast.
Gurriel at first, no balls, 2 strikes. Corbin fires, swinging a tapper, third base side of the mound. Corbin off the hill has it. He gloves, he throws. He's out at first, and the side retired. Patrick Corbin has pitched 2 scoreless innings out of the bullpen, and he sends the World Series to the 8th inning.
Drinking and driving is a decision that could change your whole world. Things will never be the same if you ever get a DUI. Because legal fees and time in court are just the beginning. Getting into a crash is another way that your world can be turned upside down. Your vehicle may not be the only thing that gets damaged in that crash. You can face a life-altering injury or even death. But you're not the only one that can face those consequences. Your decision to drink and drive can permanently impact not just your world, but someone else's world as well. Whether you injure them or leave their loved ones grieving. The next time you're out drinking, call a rideshare, a taxi, a sober friend, or a designated sober driver. The only decision that will change your world for the better is the decision to call for a sober ride. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.